Sean Strickland's Dana White privilege is ruining the UFC. Earlier this week, Dricus Du Plessis versus Sean Strickland 2 got announced, and I think it's such a matchmaking fumble. Khamzat's the obvious number one contender. He just had an absolutely sensational finish over Robert Whittaker, and he's getting passed up for Sean Strickland, who won a lackluster decision against Paulo Costa. Costa doesn't have a win over anybody currently in the UFC, and he earns a title shot from that. In a rematch with Du Plessis, somebody that he lost to, in a fight that at the moment was considered a robbery, upon rewatch, I think Du Plessis clearly won the fight 3 rounds to 2. The better fight was obviously having Khamzat Chimaev fight against Dricus Du Plessis in what would be absolutely massive, because Khamzat's stock is through the roof right now, and Strickland's really isn't. Now, I do think there's Dana White privilege involved, and obviously Strickland being an American fighter maybe has a little bit to do with it, but I think it goes deeper than that. I don't think Dana White's issue is actually with Khamzat. I don't think it's Khamzat's fault for being snubbed of a title shot. I actually think there's some weird tension between Dana White and Dricus Du Plessis, and I think Dana wants to put the hurdle of Sean Strickland in front of Du Plessis before giving him the massive Khamzat Chimaev fight, which is, honestly, I think the fight that we need to see, that all of us want to see, and I'm pressing hard that, hopefully it happens. If Du Plessis wins, you have to book it, then there's no more denying it. Now we have to look at the patented aura chart. We're going to start with Strickland, but we'll also do Khamzat's. I'll start it at Pereira loss for Sean Strickland. He was badly KO'd in the first round, and at that point, he definitely had some hype on him. He was talking some smack to Adesanya at the pre-fight press conference leading up to that event. And okay, a Pereira loss at that time, maybe wasn't as intense as a loss is now. You lose to Pereira now, your stock doesn't drop that much, but he still was violently chinned. And I don't know, I felt like his aura is sitting around the 5 after Pereira put him flat out in one punch. And that was an unproven Pereira, not the Pereira we know now. But him going on a nice win streak, I mean, granted, does have the Cannonier loss amongst it, but, kind of controversial loss to Cannonier, and then the 2-fight win streak, even the Amavov short decision, and then beating Israel Adesanya and dropping him in the first round. Sean Strickland's aura was on fire. He was 8. Okay, he was like 8 out of 10 aura. He's getting up there with some of the highest level guys in the game that really carry that heavy energy. But the aura took a massive drop, not for what he did in the cage. For him crying on the podcast with Dricus Du Plessis, having brought up, his father and things like that, and him with Theo Vaughn, he cried. The issue is because of Sean Strickland's so masculine persona, to see him break down and weep like that from something that Dricus Du Plessis said about him, it just showed weakness leading into the fight, and I thought it crushed his aura. And then losing to Du Plessis kind of dropped it down a little bit more. I have him there at like a 5.5, maybe a 6 if you want to be generous. The loss was competitive. He lost 3 rounds to 2, but he still lost. And I know there's a lot of people on their high horse that are like, oh no, he was robbed. Go rewatch the fight. He wasn't robbed. He lost. Didn't really make it any better with a boring decision over Paulo Costa. So I have like a flatlining Sean Strickland, who has dropped in aura so much since the Israel Adesanya win. Like, I get it, he had a close fight with Du Plessis, but he lost for sure 3 rounds to 2. He then had a lackluster win in an absolute bore fest against Paulo Costa, who, doesn't have a win against anybody in the UFC right now. And that deserves a title shot, which is crazy. I'm already, freaking out about just that alone. But, the aura is done, right? He's flatlining at like a 5.5 aura right now. That's not title shot worthy to me. The aura should jump with a nice little win streak, and maybe he'll get back on our good graces. But he's getting rushed into a title shot. Doesn't make any sense when on the opposite side, who you could have had fighting for the belt is Khamzat Chimaev. Look at Khamzat's aura chart. That's perfection. Look how beautiful this aura chart is. In 2021, he just strangled Leach. He was 10-0. His aura was at an 8, and I thought that he was going to be the next welterweight champion. Obviously, slower movement towards the top than anticipated. The Burns fight, he wins by decision, and he was tested in that fight a lot. And I do think that dropped his aura of invincibility down for sure. And I put him at a solid 7. Still a nice W against an OG in Burns, but he didn't look like this dominant monster that we all thought he was. Then the Diaz weight miss debacle and that fight getting canceled, and then him fighting Kevin Holland. I don't know. It just turned out to be a bad spot. He kind of fake glove touched Holland and then took him down. I feel like his aura was dropping substantially, and regardless of the win, I thought it was just a lopsided stylistic matchup, and I did lose a little bit of faith in Khamzat Chimaev as a fighter. Brought it down to like a 5.5. It was taking a nosedive. Then it went up a little bit more, though, because a win over Kamaru Usman is pretty powerful. And I feel like that's a valid 7. It goes back up to where it was with Burns. Maybe not a 7 flat, maybe a 6-8. Maybe it was 7-2 when he beat Burns, if we don't want to give out rookie scores for the aura over here. But trending around that area. An Usman win is still epic because Kamaru Usman is a legend. He out-wrestled him. He controlled him. He deserves to have his stock rise a lot, and his aura rose in the fight because he looked strong. He was mixing shots up in the feet, got tested a bit. But like I said, Usman's one of the welterweight GOATs. But then it drops down again because of the crypto scam. Honestly, I could have put it lower. It kind of dropped to like a 5.5, maybe even a 5 for some fans, especially if there's any fans that actually bought into his crypto scam. It was probably at a damn 2 for you guys. Don't be investing in those BS coins like that. Those are pump and dumps. Don't do it. But that's a totally different concept. Not today's video. And then he pulls out of the fight with Rob Whittaker. He's ill, and it's like he's never fighting again. Khamzat's done. He doesn't fight. He doesn't make it into the cage. He's got an immuno deficiency, and he's compromised, and he's never going to come back from this, is what a lot of us thought. And his aura was at like a 4.5 at that point. It was teetering towards the downward trend. You wouldn't have thought that it was going to have this much of an explosion upward. Now, I chose to have faith in Khamzat Chimaev, and I picked him leading up to the Whittaker fight, as a lot of people did. He was the favorite, but I saw tons of people roasting Khamzat's pre-fight interviews, saying like, oh, he doesn't have it anymore. He's nice guy Khamzat now. Khamzat has a son now. He's Father Khamzat. Father Khamzat murders people. Khamzat smashes Whittaker, destroys his jaw in epic fashion. I'm putting him at like a 9 right now. It's unmatched aura. Why is he not fighting Dricus Du Plessis? Why is he not fighting for the belt? Oh, well, the aura shouldn't give you a title shot. How about Khamzat's undefeated record? And the fact that he beat Usman, who also, long time ago, but still has a win over Strickland, beat Usman, right? Then has a win over Rob Whittaker easily versus what? Strickland at one point beat Adesanya. And he has a competitive fight with Du Plessis, but then a split decision. Granted, he deserved the win over Costa, but the fight was trash. And a Costa win gets you a title shot over a Robert Whittaker win? On what merit? Only Dana White privilege, because it doesn't make any damn sense. Dana's got some personal issues. And I'll show you evidence why I think Dana White's relationship with Dricus Du Plessis isn't all that good. Now, there hasn't been any, released information about these two bumping head to head and having legit beef. But Dricus said something real quick in a recent interview from earlier today that has me just a little bit suspicious. Now, this interview that Dricus Du Plessis did, it's literally from today. So I'm going to react to the things that he said. Obviously, Khamzat Chimaev's name was mentioned multiple times, and he seemed to strongly favor that matchup. We all know Khamzat was pissed because of getting passed up on the title shot, and we'll look at some of Khamzat's angry tweets and, some of Sean Strickland's firing back at Khamzat Chimaev. But first priority is to jump into some of the clips. I think these clips are definitely worthwhile watches. We're going to bring up first clip, and it's the Dricus Du Plessis interview on the Jacaranda FM channel. Never heard of this channel, but I guess it's like a South African news station, and they had Du Plessis on, and he actually released some interesting info. So let's get ready to rock. We got some Dricus Du Plessis savagery. I'm a Dricus Du Plessis guy, and I think he deserves a lot of respect. And the UFC did him wrong by forcing him into this subpar rematch. But first things first, let's listen, all right? We're going to hear Du Plessis discuss Khamzat first and why he wanted that fight. Let's listen in.
It comes a lot of people asking about that. That would have been your preferred fight, am I right?
Yeah, absolutely. Especially after what happened, because Dana said that they're probably doing Strickland next.
Okay.
And I knew that if Whittaker had to do something great and beat Khamzat, because he's already on a 2-fight win streak, he's going to jump the line. Okay. Especially for Australia. I mean, he's Australian, so that would be massive. I think the UFC...
So what he was saying there, he kind of went off on a little side tangent. I feel like that thing was at 2x speed, but they got like background music playing for this clip. If Whittaker would have done something massive, the UFC would have been very interested in doing the Australian title fight between Whittaker and Dricus Du Plessis. But because Khamzat won, I guess it doesn't have the same appeal as doing the fight in Australia, but I still think it's bigger than the Sean Strickland fight, who's American. We have a South African and an American headlining an Australian card. At this point, why can't we put in a Russian savage, Khamzat, who has a massive fan base and I think is definitely more well-liked internationally than Sean Strickland is? And I think it's because Dana White behind the scenes is pulling some strings and has, put a bit of a hurdle up against Dricus Du Plessis. Now, I want to listen to more of what Du Plessis says about Khamzat Chimaev. And, something that was mentioned is Khamzat's lack of availability and like how he can't get fights in, certain parts of the world, like America for the most part. But he's going to be in Australia. So he was able to get to Australia. There was no hurdle there to avoid this fight. I really don't get it. I think it's a big mistake, and it's just Strickland getting the privilege of being the former champ and, the narrative that their first fight was a robbery, but it wasn't. Let's listen to some more.
With Khamzat, he fought once in 2 years.
Okay.
He's very inactive. Okay. Now, I know he has visa issues getting into the United States, but they are sorting that out. I know he's going to be in Australia.
Just to reiterate, he's going to be in Australia. So he could have easily been put into this fight, but they're taken off of it. And then Dricus says, his activity rate. I don't think anybody is looking past a Khamzat Chimaev shot against Dricus Du Plessis because of the activity. I believe that Khamzat just ran into some bad luck. When he started his UFC career, he was fighting all the time. Now, when he was hanging out with Darren Till a lot, I think that's when things kind of went sideways. But him and Darren Till don't seem to be chilling much in person anymore. And thank goodness, man, because it would have absolutely ruined him because Darren Till is didn't live up to the potential. And I think Khamzat needs to avoid him like the damn plague. Now, Du Plessis is coping with the different matchup okay. As Du Plessis should. He's an absolute alpha savage. I'm a big Du Plessis believer, and seeing him versus Khamzat is two guys that I like a lot throwing down. It's bigger and better than the Strickland fight. But let's listen into this part.
So much hype right now. Massive following. The Russian fan base is massive. And that whole region of Eastern European fighters right now are on fire, and that whole region are such big fans of fighting. So
you're selling me more why we should have done the Khamzat fight, and you agree with it. Dricus Du Plessis, he said it on multiple interviews recently that he wanted the Khamzat Chimaev fight, but for whatever reason, the UFC was unable to book it. Now I'm going to get to something that I thought was interesting, and some people may brush this aside as something small, but Dricus Du Plessis was asked about if he has Dana White's number and essentially like how much are you speaking to Dana? Can we get him on the phone right now to ask some questions of why this fight was booked? And let's hear his answer.
Why? Why don't you decide?
Tell me one thing. Do you have Dana's number on your phone?
No, but I have Hunter's. Yeah. I don't speak to Dana that often.
Did you see the lip quiver? Did you see the way that Dricus Du Plessis said it? I don't speak to Dana that often. You see the way he kind of puckered at his lips? Him and Dana White, I don't believe, are on good terms. And I think Dana was the antagonist in the Khamzat Chimaev fight. Dana is the reason that Khamzat is not getting the shot. Because Dana, I think, has a liking for Sean Strickland, regardless of him saying crazy shit. I think he enjoys the American champion narrative. I think he sees that as better. I don't know if there's been negative interactions in the past between Du Plessis and Dana White. Nobody has come out and said anything. And I feel like what really reaffirmed my feelings of this was when Dana White was pressed about Dricus Du Plessis versus Sean Strickland 2, he had like an erratic meltdown. Let's listen to this clip of Dana White just freaking out and the question being pushed as completely stupid by a legit reporter who I actually thought asked a great question.
How close was Khamzat to getting the title shot against DDP in Australia?
How close was it?
Yeah.
I mean, guys, what are you fucking? Is this tonight's stupid question night? How close was he to getting?
I'm asking you because after his win against Robert Whittaker, you said he might be next, right? So
Right.
I was just.
He's not next.
Gotcha.
How close?
So angry. Why so angry? Why is Dana White so defensive? When Dana gets extremely defensive, you guys have to realize it's because there is personal bias. Same thing with him talking about Francis Ngannou's not a good guy, and I'm sure there's plenty of other examples that I'm just not going to bring up right now. But I think that for some reason, Dricus Du Plessis and him are not on good terms, and what Dana White wants to do is book Sean Strickland versus Khamzat Chimaev. That's his preferred option, and I feel like he was very stubborn towards that. I could see the way that Dricus Du Plessis carries himself in a very confident, like alpha manner, potentially irritating Dana White at like the negotiation table. And maybe Du Plessis is not extremely flexible on certain stipulations that Dana brings. And he's like, hey, we're going to do the Strickland fight. What do you want to do? You going to take a fight or are you going to wait around? No, he's going to take the fight. Du Plessis down to throw down and make it happen. But why is this the business move? At times, Dana White will avoid the best business option for his personal bias and his personal disdain with people or whatever, right? He would rather not do probably as well with the event, but to kind of hold the high ground that he was right and that he was in charge. And then if Sean Strickland is able to beat Dricus Du Plessis, I think this is a Dana White best case scenario. I feel like he'll be absolutely ecstatic and so high on booking Sean Strickland versus Khamzat. In a world where Sean Strickland, was champion and the scenarios of Du Plessis and Strickland were reversed, I don't think Du Plessis would be getting this title shot against Sean Strickland. Instead, I do believe Khamzat would have got the shot. So I think there's a little personal bias against Dricus Du Plessis from Dana White that has never been mentioned publicly, but I'm telling you guys right here, I think that's exactly what's going on. They don't speak. That's odd to me. They have no communication whatsoever. He talks purely to Hunter. He's getting screwed over. The Dana White privilege for Sean Strickland is unmatched, man. It's just not the right fight to make. And of course, yes, Dricus Du Plessis is going to say, I'm excited to fight. I'm just, I'm happy to go out and win. Like, he wasn't like, I'm not going to take the fight. He'll do it. He's down to run it back. And he roasted Sean Strickland a lot during this interview. I thought it was really funny. We'll play a few of the roast here. He pretty much flamed Sean Strickland's performance against Paulo Costa. And I think it's completely warranted because Paulo Costa, he literally doesn't have a win against anybody in the UFC. Why is beating him getting you a title shot over beating Robert Whittaker, who, Robert Whittaker beat Paulo Costa already? So strange. Let's listen.
Just do everybody a favor.
Well, there's one question. I mean, he did bounce back. He beat Paulo Costa. What did you make of that?
That was the most boring fight I've watched ever. But I mean, if you look at
Yo, what are the odds Sean Strickland tears up again in a press conference with Du Plessis, man? He can't handle the Du Plessis shit talk. He's just a subtle savage. Just the way Du Plessis can run his mouth is so slick. He talked about it a little bit on this podcast that like his family talks shit and like they banter at the dinner table and shit. So he's used to it. And obviously Strickland isn't. Let's listen to some more.
the press conference, he said, till death, and he always says these things, but you're not going to kill somebody with a jab.
Bro, if you are not a Dricus Du Plessis fan, I don't get it, bro. Du Plessis funny as hell. He should definitely already have the should already have the Khamzat fight. This Strickland fight's completely unnecessary. I'm upset that it's happening. Now, I will say there was some good information released from Dricus Du Plessis during this interview, and I'm going to quickly play it. It's at 22:40. He released that the Nasruddin Imavov and Israel Adesanya fight is actually seemingly booked and actually going to happen. So let's listen.
Nasruddin Imavov also on the same card. It's interesting, the Frenchman. So that's going to be very interesting. You know, obviously with Izzy, he is from down under.
Boom. There we go. Fight announcement news as well during this video. Look at that. We're getting everything. Somehow, this video only has like 2,000 views, the interview with Du Plessis. I definitely think that it should have some more. You guys should give it a listen. I'll definitely link it in the description down below. Give him some credit and check it out. Because Du Plessis is a savage. You got to listen to Du Plessis interviews, and this one was pretty cool. I feel like what I gathered from it all is there's personal bias from Dana White against Du Plessis. Now, Khamzat was also really pissed. Obviously, Dana White really likes Khamzat Chimaev, but his dislike for Dricus Du Plessis seems to be bleeding over more so than anything else. Who is this G? Look at this. This is Strickland's fake Twitter account. It's not even him, but he said, "This is your father." And he puts P. Diddy up in there. That's really funny. But I think that Dana White should be pictured right here, because it's the Dana White privilege that is setting this matchup up, and it's the disdain towards, Dricus for some reason. Like I'm telling you, I think he's just maybe tough to deal with at the negotiating table. You can hear, Sean Strickland on Twitter. I guess you can't hear it, but you can imagine him saying it. He talks some shit to Khamzat Chimaev. Bro, you're not a man. Character level fucking dog shit. Crypto scams. Hoard yourself out to Gadiro for cars. Fled to the Middle East when the pimp hand got too strong. Stay in your lane, Swedish man. Jeez, bro. And he said, "Can Khamzat even fight in America?" No, he can't, and that says a lot. We let everyone in America. This guy has the moral character of dog shit. Fake Muslim. That's a hot take, bro. Him and Khamzat Chimaev are going to beef for real. I think Khamzat's going to pull up on him. There might be a fight in the UFC 312 lead-up if Khamzat's at the Fighter Hotel or anything like that leading up to 312. I'm sure the UFC is going to try to keep Khamzat away. Now, what's interesting, though, is, okay, Khamzat at the moment can't fight in America, but to be fair, this fight is in Australia, and Khamzat Chimaev is going to be there. Now, to add some more on top of everything, bro, Rob Whittaker, who has been inside of the cage with both Dricus Du Plessis and Khamzat Chimaev, this was his prediction on how a fight would go against either Strickland or Du Plessis against Khamzat.
Yeah. What do you think Khamzat does against Dricus or Sean? Like, do you think he'd be the favorite against either of them?
Yeah, I'd have to. Like, I can't see. I don't know. I think he just takes him down and does the same thing. Like,
look at that. Takes him down and does the same thing like he did to him. He also alluded to after, maybe even like how the Usman fight looked. But this is somebody that's fought both Du Plessis and Khamzat, and that tells you the different level of physicality that Khamzat has. And you can see Du Plessis landing takedowns on Sean Strickland. I'm sure Khamzat would be very successful if they tied up. It's like Whittaker's keeping it real. I know Whittaker is like a super neutral and non-biased type of guy. So the fact that his reaction is like, they got no chance, he's telling you the truth. Rob Whittaker's pretty humble, and he really doesn't try to stir the pot much at all. So for him to make a pretty base prediction that Khamzat would wreck both of them, I honestly see it as super sincere. Damn. So Dana White's the one stopping it. The Dana White privilege for Sean Strickland has clouded Dana's vision, and now we don't get to see what could be one of the most badass fights of 2025, which is Khamzat and DDP. Now, obviously, if DDP wins, the UFC is going to be forced to book DDP versus Khamzat. Now, we'll keep my fingers crossed and hope that that happens. And then we know if Strickland wins, it's going to be Khamzat versus Strickland. Could be the angle Dana's now pulling by passing up on Khamzat getting the shot. And if Strickland somehow wins, the beef intensifies between the two because Khamzat is feeling like his title shot was stolen by Sean Strickland, which it was. But it wasn't Strickland that really did anything. He just accepted the fight and signed the contract. It was Dana White who's, trying to get Dricus Du Plessis a loss, I think. I really feel like that's the scenario we're at. And I am excited for the fight because I want to see Dricus Du Plessis thrive, and I hope to see Khamzat get inside of the octagon and face off with him. I feel like this was a pretty fun reaction video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I'm curious if you guys agree with my take down below, so let me know in the comments if you think that I'm onto something with a little personal beef between Du Plessis and Uncle Dana, because I think so. I think you should think so too. Make sure you all smash the like button. If you guys are new, subscribe it up. And if you just enjoy the content, you don't want to say anything in the comments, drop a W in the chat to boost the algorithm for your boy. Thanks for watching, everybody. Good night. I'll see you in the next one. Peace out.